Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Janisch, and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Bryan Gilmore.
What's up, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? Welcome to the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I'm your man, Brad Gilmore, and a guy who lives in a city, in a state that always has beautiful weather, no rain, no flooding, no snow, no nothing, from Chicago, Illinois. Make some noise for Frank Janisch.
Really?
No.
Okay. No, it's great. It's great here in Chicago, where it's been nothing but rain and wind and 60s and 30s. It's been great. So, yeah.
Frank, I don't really care. So anyway, let's get into the show today. We have an action-packed show for you today. We're going to talk about a team match between two established teams with brand new members. But before we do that, we want to remind you to go to the Schmoedown Patreon page and, donate anything you can or subscribe to the Patreon page. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, 20, 30, 40, 50, anything really. That helps out the Schmoedown, the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, and the Schmoedown Rundown. It's really a great thing, isn't it, Frank?
Absolutely. I've been saying it for weeks. Have you not heard?
I may have heard you say a couple things, but I try to tune you out most of the time.
Excellent.
Also, a live show going down on March the 15th in Los Angeles, California.
Los Angeles.
Why don't you tell the people?
Yeah, Los Angeles. Yeah.
Why don't you tell the people, Francis, if that is your real name?
It's not.
Why don't you tell the people? Well, that's hi, Frank's sister. Why don't you tell the people? Hold on. Why don't you tell the people, Frank, who's participating in that big match in Los Angeles, California?
Yeah, we're talking about Roca versus JTE, and the undercard to that main event is the Wildberries versus...
Wildberries!
Yes, Wildberries. Who are they playing?
You're a buffoon!
Oh, the Real Rejects. Yes, the Real Rejects. So it's going to be a great time at that venue. I'm excited to go out there. I'm like 99% sure I'm going to be there. So, and I think when we're out there, I think a good idea might be to take advantage of some Instagram Live, maybe give you a point of view from where I'm at, and just so I know some people can't make it out there, which is fine, understandable to certain circumstances. But if I could get some Instagram Live stuff out there, you can see it as it happens, as we're experiencing it. So it's something,
Yeah, Frank, we have been a great community service there. But if you do want to see the things that Frank may or may not post on the 15th of March, you follow us on our Instagram page at Schmoedown Rundown, or you can follow us on Twitter at SchmoedownRD. Shout out to our super producer, Chris Clark, on the ones and twos, on the wheels of steel. Chris, we're going to be throwing to you here in a little bit to talk about this team match. But let's go on. Let's talk about it, Frank. Why waste any time? Let's talk about the team match that was. We had box office breakdown and superhero news, but we saw new faces. Why don't you tell the people who we saw as a part of these new teams?
Yeah, for box office breakdown, formerly Finstock and JTE, way back in 2015, part of 2016, we have Amy Martinez and Frank Moran, who are in box office breakdown. And then on the other side, superhero news, used to be Hector and Adam. We got Sabina Graves and Sean Gerber. They've now taken up the mantle of superhero news.
I didn't know really what to expect from them. I hadn't really, obviously we haven't seen them play in the Schmoedown as teams before. So I thought that it was going to be an interesting match. Sometimes a team debuts, and I think they even made reference to it, like the Nerds Watch, where they come in and they're instant. They're an instant success as soon as they come into the league. and then sometimes they're, and no disrespect to them, but they're kind of like the wangers. Wangers come in and they don't do so good. Or sometimes you see a new competitor like a Coy Jandrew, and he just doesn't do so good. So you don't really ever know what to expect with new faces, but we like seeing new faces in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I think the first thing we should call attention to is we're in a new set, brother.
Yeah.
They're definitely in the new studio over there in California. I don't know exactly where. I've only been to the old studio. Don't know where the new studio is, but they are in the new studio. And a couple different shots. It looks similar to the older one. Anything really stand out to you, Frank?
Well, I think the whole thing stood out to me. And, the announcers table, they got, it's a wall, a backdrop of a couple of the event posters that were made up by, I don't know if those were made up by Bryan Ward or another artist, but nonetheless, they're great posters. And then the competitors table is the old table in which the announcers used to sit at, if you recall. So interesting that they're using it for now the competitors. I like that idea, actually. And also the wheel round. The wheel is now in front of the curtain, so competitors have to get up and walk over to the wheel and spin it. I like that approach for the second round, spinning the wheel, just because I think it makes things a little more interactive, not so much static at the desk. So I liked the way this is laid out. It's a little weird, I'll be honest, just because it's a change. It's different from what we've seen, so it takes a little bit of adjusting to get used to it. But I think in the end, they'll tinker with the format, the layout, probably as the season goes on, and get it just how they like it. So I think it's great. It brings a different feel. It really seems like the Schmoedown is entering kind of a different phase, if you will. So given with the Patreon and new competitors, so I think it's a good setup for, I think, the rest of the year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a good setup. It was a little jarring, right? When it came to the on-cam of Rachel and Mark Ellis, it was like, whoa, where the hell am I? Am I on the right channel?
It really gives...
It was a little jarring at first.
I was going to say, it really gives like that ringside feel, if you know what I'm saying, when they come into the two announcers. That's how I kind of felt when they cut to them.
Hey, there you go, Frank.
Right.
There you go. You're trying to use different analogies and references, bring people in. I like what you did there. It's not as good as me, but it was good. Chris Clark, are you available right now? I'd like to know what you thought of the new kind of studio setup. And, here it is, the first match post, phase one or whatever of the Collider. What did you think of the new studio?
The studio looks amazing. The fact that they're using the announcers table, as you guys said, as the actual new four-way kind of thing for the competitors, I actually preferred that table. I've always liked that table. And I've always felt like it just looks symmetric. It looks better camera-wise. From an editing perspective, I think it looks fantastic. I would say, just constructively, the announcers table with the backdrop and everything, I would say it looks okay. I do miss that wall of items and stuff behind them and it doesn't have that much visual appeal. I mean, the two posters look beautiful and it's lit well. I just feel like they could have a little bit more set direction. I surely expect that it's just going to improve and they're going to build upon it. And I don't know if it was a sound issue, but the new studio has an echoing kind of thing. I would assume that they haven't put all the noise blocking things around the studio yet at the time they were recording that. But I think overall it's fantastic, and I can't wait to see how much it builds up and improves. It's great. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's just going to come with time. They're moving and trying to shoot stuff at the same time. It's like anytime you move into a house or apartment, you got boxes that are laying around for weeks at a time. You're like, oh crap, I got to unpack that. I got to hang that up. I got to do that. So I think it's still obviously a transitional phase, but I really do like the layout that it is now. It definitely has a different feel. It's got a different vibe. That opening on cam with, like I said, Mark and Rachel Cushing felt a little more sportsy to me. It felt more sportsy.
Yeah.
And I did like that. So overall, it's a hell of a start. And just like we know with the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, like the graphics are on a whole nother level as of late. I think even from the season premiere, the graphics have already stepped up even more. So I as we know with the production elements over there at Collider and the Schmoes know, it's only going to get better. And that's all we can expect from them because they never disappoint. Let's talk about these competitors though. These opening Actually, the opening on cam, one more point on it. I liked how they treated Rachel Cushing like a big deal. In that opening on cam, she felt like a big deal. It was the other night. It was the All-Star game, and Shaq and Chuck and all the guys, they were sitting at the table, and they had LeBron come over and sit in with them. And it just, you're like, man, LeBron is a big deal. And when you see him in that setting, you're like, wow, he is a star, and they're treating him like a star. And that's what I got from Rachel Cushing. Rachel was giving people advice on their promos and talking smack. She was talking about, she's coming after that championship of Sam Levine. Her and Clark Wolf, the Shire Wolves. Although Chris Clark and Rachel Cushing, I'd be for. By the way, just to throw that out there, if ever Clark Wolf needs an alternate, Chris Clark's your guy. But so I liked how they treated her like a big deal. Did you pick that up at all, Frank?
Yeah, I thought that it was great. They kind of went into, her past and her past experiences. Didn't let her go to waste being at the table calling the match. They got into a little bit about Levine and how that's going to go, and so I liked that they took the time to just kind of chat with Rachel and see what she has in store for the season and her thoughts on these new competitors. So I like that they took the time to do that. And Rachel is a big deal. She is arguably now one of the biggest stars in the Schmoedown, and her star will only rise even more if she does actually win the singles title. She could very well become the undisputed face of the league if she gets that title. So I'm glad that they gave her that due respect at the table right before everything went down.
Yeah, 100%. Now let me ask you this: these opening promos are interesting to me. In wrestling, we teach wrestlers to come out through the curtain, and as soon as they come out, you know who's the heel, you know who's the baby. That's how you know you're an effective pro wrestler, and your persona and your psychology and your characters coming through on screen. As soon as you walk out on stage, we know if we're going to cheer you, we know if you're going to boo you. In your opinion, in this situation, who is the heel and who is the baby?
I don't know. I don't think there was a heel. I mean, Rachel, said that, at least at the end of the match, I can't remember what she said in the beginning, but, she likes the two new face teams in the league. And although I will say in the promos for Superhero News, I felt like there was a bit more of an edge to them. Box Office Breakdown, they just came in loving everything.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So Box Office Breakdown came in, we love you, we love that, it's all love. And I think, here's a bold prediction. If they continue, and maybe they got to, step it up competitive level-wise and knowledge-wise, if they continue, though, in the Schmoedown, I think they're going to turn into one of the biggest heel teams in the Schmoedown, because they're going to be a heel team that doesn't know they're a heel team. There's a great competitor in NXT named Bo Dallas, and he was a wrestler whose gimmick was he's so good and such a baby face that he's a heel, but he doesn't know that he's a heel. That was his gimmick, and that's what I think of Box Office Breakdown. I think that they're going to be big heels because they don't know.
That would be great, and I think that would be highly entertaining. And I think if they were to be given that label of the heel, it'd be done by us, and it wouldn't necessarily be something I think they would be intentionally going for. It just happened to work out that way, so they might roll with it and have fun with it that way. That could be very interesting. Heels that don't know that they're heels. That has definitely piqued my curiosity in terms of where we could go with Box Office Breakdown. If in fact, they can, like as you said, get the competitive nature up just a little bit more. And we'll get into all that.
We're about to get into round number 1 here in a second, but I definitely thought, these guys, I found myself hating them, like without
they're too nice.
them telling me that they love me. I'm like, hey man, this is a competition. I need you to talk your smack and back it up, you know.
But I
they're
think
like,
that really speaks
we
to
love you, I
yeah,
love
yeah.
you, we all love heart shapes, emoji eyes, the whole thing.
And I think that just really speaks to how much they probably are really fans of the show, the inexperience. I know that we saw Sabina there, and I can't recall
Yeah.
seeing the Frank or Sean, but I do remember seeing Amy there. So like they're familiar with the layout, but still, it's a different thing when you're actually the one being asked questions and competing against another team or an individual. So I think it's just probably all a bit of a feeling out moment for them. So because I'm definitely interested in seeing them down the road, both of these teams, to see how they adapt and now that they know what to expect more, perhaps their promos will be a little more tailored to how they want to approach the Schmoedown now. Because I think superhero news is going to have an edge, and if Box Office Breakdown goes the route of heels that don't know their heels, I mean, you know, this could be a lot of fun between both these teams.
Yeah, who knows? We could see the beginning of a great rivalry here. Let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's jump into it. Entrance-wise, you know, there were entrances, right? I mean, there was nothing. There was no Rachel Cushing. There was no, you know, Wolves of Steel here, right?
Right. This is all about, I think, just getting their feet wet, getting a feel for what the atmosphere is like, and all of that. What was interesting is that Christian still did the intros off screen. It reminded me of him, like he's like the SNL Don Pardo. If you remember him, he did the introductions for Saturday Night Live for like a billion years, right? He's now become like Don Pardo for the Schmoedown. You just hear his voice when he's introducing people. It's great. I thought it was pretty funny, and like, it's just another new thing to go along with that space they're in. So, but yeah, you're right. The entrances were just, you know, aside from Box Office Breakdown, blowing kisses and shaking hands and, you know, kissing babies and stuff. So it was just,
you know,
I
don't need the handshaking here. You know, maybe I just don't like the niceties that come in.
I mean, I think you're already sold at their heels, so you know.
Yeah, I think so. Well, to me, like when Jay Leno would come out on the Tonight Show and he'd shake everybody's hand, I don't know. I always felt that was like a heel thing to do. Like, run to me. Let me shake you get to shake my hand because I'm Jay Leno, the host of the Tonight Show. And that's kind of what I got from them. Anyway, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm just seeing them through a lens. I'm like a conspiracy theorist. You know, who I'm looking for the information instead of like actually processing what's happening without a bias.
You're seeing what you want to see. Yeah.
What are you trying to say, Frank?
I'm not trying to say it. I just said it the way what I wanted to say.
Anyway, round number 1. Let's talk about it as I get my notes out right here. Round number 1 ends 11-6. Superhero news crushing Box Office Breakdown, or should I say breaking them. Frank, what was your reaction to round numero 1?
A lot of these questions I felt were, at least to me, they were fairly easy. I didn't know all of them, sure, but I thought the totals that each player put up, aside from Amy, and I don't want to. We all know how Amy performed in the first round. Got the first question right, and that was it. Sometimes that stuff happens. I get it. There's really nothing else to say besides that. The other players, though, Frank, Sabina, and Sean, all had very nice debuts in that first round. Sean with 6, and Frank and Sabina with 5. So they're right at the league average right there. But I know missing Space Cowboys, and then they missed the Karate Kid question. How many movies with Ralph Macchio? That one, all of them missed that one. So there's a couple questions there that kind of took me for a surprise. The Johnny Depp one, the Pan question, that one I didn't know. I didn't even know that one.
Hugh Jackman, I did know that. And here's the thing.
I don't
remember who played James Hook in that movie. I don't remember who played James Hook in that movie, but whoever did absolutely ruined it for me. I actually am one of the few people who liked the Pan movie. I can't remember who played James Hook in that movie, but his voice sounded dubbed in and fake and phony, and he ruined it for me. Damn it. Wayne's World question was easy.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know how many people would have gotten. Normally if you walk up to people in the street, maybe 5 out of 10 of them get what country Beauty and the Beast took place in, because it had me going for a second, because I'm like, wait a minute, Emma Watson's like English, right? Was it in England? And then I'm like, wait a minute, Gaston, that's French. So is it in France or England? I never
really paid attention to the country in that movie, so it definitely was a head scratcher for me to think about for a second. But yeah, but they all got it right, so it was a great start.
Where's Aladdin? Where's Aladdin take place? Oh,
Agrabah. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that. I tried to make a point, but I knew the answer to it. Anyway, the Karate Kid question, I could give them a little break on, because I said 2 as well. I'm like, wait a minute, okay, there's 2 Ralph Macchio and then Hilary Swank, right?
Yeah,
that's it, right?
Yeah, but then I can't remember the last time I saw that Hilary Swank one. But I was like, was he have a part in that third one? Because I was like, it seems like.
So does he? Let me look this up.
Well, obviously, because the answer was 3.
Yeah, there's only 3 of them, right? And then there was the Jaden Smith.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, so I was like, for sure 2, but that's almost too easy. So I was thinking of the Hilary Swank one. I was like, did he pop into that one?
No.
And so I was
there was the Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm.
Then the 1986 sequel, which was Karate Kid 2.
Yeah.
And then the 1989 sequel, which was Karate Kid 3. And then you had the next Karate Kid in 94 and 2010.
Oh, that's
Jackie
right.
Chan and Jaden Smith.
Yeah. Next Karate Kid.
I forgot it was called the Next Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, now we look like idiots. So.
Well, you're used to looking like an idiot. I'm not. As far as Amy's performance, I don't know. I mean, I think it was a first round jitters. I don't know if it was lack of knowledge and information. I think it was, hold on here, you're asking me too many things at once. I don't know if I'm 100% comfortable with this environment yet. That's what that's the impression I got, because in the later rounds we saw that she has definitely a knowledge base. I just think that this first one, it wasn't there for her, which is understandable. Which brings me to my small rant. And I don't rant normally on this show, but I did. There's a epidemic in the league. There's an epidemic that I want to see an end to. If you don't know the answer, leave it blank. Oh. I don't want to see your funny quote. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it anymore. I loved it when guys like Mark Ellis and Josh McCouga and the Tom Dagninos of the world did it. I am over it. I don't want to see it anymore, Frank.
Guess what? No one cares. No one cares. They can do what they want. Okay, so you definitely have to give people a pass, especially on their first debut match. It's a completely different animal when you're watching it on your computer and then you're at the desk. So, yeah, I'm not going to go too far into or read too far into Amy's first round performance until I see some more reps. So, yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, it's all about repetition when you get to that level and just feeling comfortable in the environment. So, I mean, overall, though, Superhero News looked pretty good in their first round, right? I mean, 11. Yeah, it's not a terrible score for a first timer.
No, it's a fairly good score. 11 is tied for the 4th best debut for a team in the first round. 11 out of a possible 16 points. So that's almost 69% of the points there in that first round. So it's a pretty good debut from Superhero News, which I think, when you have a 5-point lead, that's quite a cushion in the Schmoedown.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. So let's move on to round numero dos, which again is Spanish for 2.
Knew that.
I'm working on my Spanish, by the way.
Clearly.
Round number 2 ends 15-20. Superhero News still in the lead, but the lead has been shaven down quite considerably. 5 points going into round number 3. It's definitely not a position you want to be in, but you can still have a comeback. There's still a chance out there for you Frank, your analysis of round number 2. Let's start with superhero news. They spun, they got Disney, and they stuck with it.
Yeah. And it seemed like Sabina was the one to enact that strategy there. It seemed like, I think Sabina was, I guess, more or less the leader of the team. I know it's only the first match, so they're still trying to figure things out. But usually when you have a team, you can kind of tell who's kind of the leader, in a sense, for most of the teams, I think. So I think we kind of saw that Sabina, took charge here. And we'll see that later on when we get to the Snow White question. So I like that Sabina was confident. Disney, like, oh yeah, we can do this. And started off pretty hot, but then they gave up a point to Box Office Breakdown, stealing that Mulan question. And then when they got to the Snow White question, who voiced, I forget the exact wording, but the answer was Snow White, and Sabina and Sean, they kind of confer, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, multiple choice. And then Sabina's like, oh, no, I'm going to guess. I was like, oh, just unilaterally decided for the team that they're going to guess. And I want to chalk that up to just, it's a new environment. They're teams. It's the first time they're competing together. So I think just part of the kinks. But she guesses Sleeping Beauty. And it turns out the answer is Snow White. Luckily, Box Office Breakdown, for superhero news' sake, didn't capitalize on that 2-point opportunity. And, they finished, they were fairly strong, though, in that round. And a lot of it seemed like it was on Sabina just from the basis that looked like Sean wasn't too sure. Sabina wanted it, so he conceded to Sabina. And it worked out for the most part. They got 7 points out of that on their turn. So not the greatest, but, also not the worst.
Yeah, not the worst. I honestly, when I heard Disney category, was spun, I was like, yeah, I think most people would do okay in Disney if you have any sort of fandom of Disney at all. And then when I saw some of these questions, the first one was like, what did a boo steal? Yeah. Bread, boom, easy. The Goofy movie question, boom, easy. But stuff like, what was the name of the villain in Mulan? I was like, okay, I might need to get multiple choice on that. Then they go with multiple choice, and I'm still like, shit, they all sound like their villain in Mulan. I couldn't remember. And I recently watched Mulan, like 4 or 5 months ago. I watched it, and I'm like, wow, they all sound like the right answer. And which is the worst thing when you're taking a test and you're like, wait, all of these sound right. So I thought that they had good, getting an additional, 9 points. Pretty good for your debut. I mean, getting 20 points in the first 2 rounds as a team. Yeah. It's nothing to shake a stick at all. No. But let's go to Amy and Frank. They spin first. What did they get the first time?
Horror thriller.
Horror thriller. And then they're like, hell no. So they spin again and they get spinner's choice. Now the whole time the commentators are kind of saying, hey, they should get new releases. They'll be good if they do new releases, or they're gonna get new releases. And then when they got spinner's choice, they conferred for quite a while, so long that they were put on the 5-second countdown clock. And then they said, yeah, new releases, which told me that's not really what they wanted. And secondly, they didn't see anything on the board that they thought was a legitimate strength of theirs.
Yeah, it seemed like Frank was less, willing to go to new releases, but Amy seemed a little more for it, I think. At least I felt like Frank was a little iffy on new releases, but they opted to go with new releases because I don't know if they felt like... Jesus Christ. So it's just interesting the way they got to that decision, sure.
But do you think that their decision paid off? I mean, they end the round, what was it, with 15 points, 5 points shy. They still didn't. It was a selected category by the spinner, but it still wasn't a solid performance in round number 2 from them.
Well, technically speaking, they scored 8 points on their round, while Superhero News scored 7 during their round. Yeah. So and so it all was basically just a wash at the end. They both ended up with 9 points in that round. So, but missing Matt Damon, and then getting
Matt Damon was hard.
Yeah, because then Superhero News picked that up, which that question's right in their wheelhouse. and they picked up that question for 2 points. Had that not happened, had Box Office Breakdown got that 2 points, had they run the table as they did for the remaining 5 questions, coming out of this round, they would have just been down by 1 point. It would have been 18-17. So that was pretty much the difference in this match in terms of at least having Superhero News answer some round 3 questions. So that was a devastating blow for Box Office Breakdown, especially when it's compounded by the fact that Superhero News picked up the 2 points, and then you see the way Box Office Breakdown actually played throughout the rest of that round, which was pretty well. So, I aside from like that first round, they show that they can at least be pretty competent with at least the new releases, so and that they can maneuver their way through that second round fairly well, aside from that first question blunder. So I thought I saw some pretty good stuff from Box Office Breakdown that gave me hope that they could actually, have better appearances. Come back and do better in the next match.
Yeah, I would like to see them again, and we're about to get into round number 3 here. Of course, round number 3 ends with a TKO. I believe the final score was 18-20.
Yeah.
Superhero News takes it, but let's go question by question real quick. Question number 1 went to Amy, and it was Christopher Walken played the father of Frank Abagnale in what Spielberg movie? Now, this happens to be one of my favorite Leo films overall. I love Catch Me If You Can. I'm listening to the book by Frank William Abagnale right now. So this was something that I actually I'm really big on. So when she said,
but you're listening to it?
Yeah, I can't read.
Yeah,
when
I thought
she
so.
said Jaws, my jaw hit the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was like,
that was pretty rough.
Have you seen Jaws?
I mean,
I would
Jeanine?
love it if Christopher Walken. I'm not going to do a Christopher Walken impression, but if he was in Jaws, oh man, it would be a considerably more awesome movie. But come on, man.
Yeah, it was disappointing to see that she couldn't pull that answer out, and she said as much in the post-match interview. So
she did. And obviously, this was like a shot in the dark. And she's like, "What's the first Steven Spielberg movie I can think of?" Jaws.
Yeah.
I think she knew that wasn't the answer, but it was like, "Oh, come on!"
She knew.
I love that movie. I love that movie. So I was like, "Oh, come on, give it to me."
And it just goes back to the lights affect people differently. So I think that was certainly the instance here. Again, you get in the clock, and you kind of come up with a Spielberg film. And for whatever reason, Jaws came to mind, and even though she knew it wasn't right, but you put out an answer anyway, so at least took a shot.
You did something. You didn't understand that.
Yeah. Right.
Question number 2 was from the category of 2000s. It said, who played Ron Burgundy's rival, newsman Wes Mantooth in Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy? Of course, Frank was able to get that one. At least some Frank can do something right. And he got Vince Vaughn was the correct answer. Super producer Chris Clark, can I have you chime in here for just a moment? What did you think of Box Office Breakdown's performance so far? And they got this question. It got them just one more question away from the lead.
Well, look, this entire match, like, I can see why these questions are either so easy, or you kind of feel like, they kind of had like beginners like snuff like throughout the first around the first couple. This was what I considered to be. It wasn't a great match. It wasn't a high. It wasn't really. It didn't need to be a great match. It was still entertaining. It was still fun. The thing is, these are two teams that are debuting. You don't want to kill a team and discourage a team from returning if the questions are too difficult, if anything is too difficult. And I feel like the question balance in here I have to give to Chris Skaliski was actually really, really well placed and balanced with the rhythm of how everything was written. How Box Office Breakdown pulled out, even though they lost, I feel like it ending in the 20-18 score that's nothing to scoff at. That's still a solid debut for both teams. And I feel like the performance of Box Office Breakdown, yes, it left a lot to be desired, but also it kind of makes us want to see them again, and hopefully they improve. And of course, Superhero News killed it as well. I mean, it was just the performance may have been a little not as good, but the match itself was still fun.
Yeah, first match jitters. We just had a show live last Saturday for Reality Wrestling when the opening match was two girls who had never wrestled. The first match ever. Did they have mistakes? Absolutely. Did they compete? Did they have a 5-star classic? Nowhere close. Did they do a good job? Did they make it entertaining? And do you see something there they can build on? 100%. And that's what I think about Box Office Breakdown and Superhero News. I think they have a solid foundation, and there is something there that can be built on. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, especially I think with Frank doing so well throughout majority of this match, I think that's something that Amy can lean on. And I think Frank knows that Amy, she had a bad day, but he knows that Amy knows her stuff, and it was just a matter of the circumstances. And Amy knows that she knows her stuff, and maybe she wants to go back and retool some stuff, as any competitor should in the league, anyone worth their salt. So I think she's going to go back and do the homework, and hopefully the lights, the circumstances won't get to her as much, because now she's been through it. Now she knows what it's like. Now she knows what it's like to hear that countdown, come directly at you instead of, like this. Yeah, great. Mm-hmm. It's not like a cue for you to do it. I'm just saying. So anyways, I think, I definitely want to see them back again, because their second round, and well, let's get into that 5-pointer, because that's where Amy.
5-pointer was Whoopi Goldberg uses the pseudonym of Rita Miller to access a bank account with laundered money in what film? That's a 5-pointer. I'm going to be honest. That's a 5-pointer. I had no idea on this. Maybe it's just me. My Whoopi Goldberg knowledge isn't very deep. So that was a hard one for me.
I guess Sister Act, because I just didn't. I didn't know like you. I was like,
you know what? That's actually probably not that bad of a. That's probably not that bad of a guess.
So you can actually see Amy mouth the word "ghost" right when this question's finished being asked, and she's looking at Frank, and Frank's not too sure, but she seemed pretty confident. And again, I think it's first-time teammates not knowing where that trust lies. And yes, Amy hasn't had the greatest match, and Frank is trying to rack his brain for the answer. But it seemed like Amy was pretty on top of it, and I think this is where familiarity with each other plays a huge part, because I think had they had more time together as a team, I think down the line Frank would defer to Amy, especially once he senses that she's pretty confident in her answer, and would have deferred, and she would have given the answer ghost, and it would have been 5 points, and it would have went to Superhero News, and then who knows what happens, right? So I think this is purely a case of just a young team trying to meld and trying to figure out how to play the game together, because as bad of a game Amy played, she did know a 5-pointer. So that leads me to believe that there's more knowledge there. You just don't come up with this stuff randomly. That's not a question you can guess on, really, and hope to get it right. I suppose maybe. I mean, I don't know what else movie you could pick for Whoopi Goldberg, but I thought it was impressive that she did know that, and that gave me reason to believe that there's more there to be seen from Amy in the future.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think, like Chris said, and like you've been saying, and I've been saying this whole time, like, there's a good foundation here. I would personally like to see these guys and girls compete more in the Schmoedown, and I think they're only going to get better with more reps, more repetition, like we said before. We go to the post-match interviews, and we get to see the return of Emma Fyffe.
Yeah,
it's good to see Emma Fyffe here on the show. Emma Fyffe, extraordinarily taller than Amy. I want to point that out because it stood out to me like, whoa, what the hell?
We've had some weird height discrepancies in these post-match interviews as of late.
Yeah. Ken Sturger last week in the Inner Geekdom, and then now you have Emma Fyffe, and of course I was taller than everyone. Not the point. Anyway, anything that stuck out to you in these post-match? We kind of alluded to what Amy said prior, that obviously the lights, whatever. The Jaws question. Anything else that stuck out to you?
I think we saw Superhero News get that confidence after this win. I think I felt it more in this post-match interview than we had seen in the pre-match interview, right? So, and they were also, I think they also had a very humble approach. You could tell that they had a humble approach coming into this match, knowing that, yeah, I was on a couch shouting the answers, but now I'm here, and they were aware of what the difference might be like. So I like where their heads at going forward. So I think their perspective on how to approach the game, coming from home to studio, is going to serve them well going into future matches, especially if they face a certain team down the line.
Yes. Let me throw it to super producer Chris Clark. Chris, if you don't mind, your overall reaction. Anything stuck out to you about the post-match interviews? Would you like to see these teams compete more?
I'll say one and the other. Okay, look, the teams themselves, as I said, like this is a debut match. The easiness of the questions. I'm glad they both weren't killed off right at the start like a couple of teams have been in the past. And I do want to see both of them again. They seem like great personalities that you can build off some sort of story from. What really caught my eye, and this is the filmmaker in me, is the fact that the backdrop is A back, which is fantastic, but B. They lit it with a colored gel, the blue gel, because now each section of MTS is color coded. Team matches are blue, singles are red, Star Wars is yellow, Celebrity is gold, and Inner Geekdom is green. And I would imagine that every single post match interview is going to be lit with that colored gel, and it looked beautiful, and the cinematography was amazing. I know it's not really the post-match interview that caught my eye, but it's the actual thing, how it was shot. It was great. It was fantastic.
I did like the way they lit the background. Actually, I did appreciate it. I would like it even if they just left it for every match.
I would like it if Chris Clark would if you and Chris would just switch places, Frank.
I bet you would.
He provides good enough.
It only takes one call, Brad.
Uh-oh.
What the hell does that mean, Frank?
This is bad.
What are you trying to say?
Just having a little fun.
I don't find that comment to be funny at all.
All right, come on. Right. We're talking about a trivia show. It's a little. Come on.
Are you good, man?
Frank, come on, man. Like, hey, it's supposed to be light. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, that was light. Come on.
Dude, hey, no, Frank, no, you can't do that shit, man. It's not cool. It's not cool.
Guys, all right, let's take it. All right, let's take it easy. Let's take it easy.
No, Chris, you're probably gonna have to cut all this out because.
Okay, you guys need to just relax. Just relax, Brad. Please, just relax, dude. You got to take a breath.
You know what, Frank? Last week was what it was. I tried to get through the show. I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to do it. You know what, guys? Hey, guess what? Bye.
Holy shit.
I don't even really know why it got this far. You know what I'm saying?
What the hell was that? I think this is professionalism. This show is built on professionalism. What the hell was that? Where is Brad?
Look, I didn't want to bring this up with you, Chris, because I just want to keep it between me and Brad and just try and settle this. I mean, I've been having a little hard time with Brad, and just sometimes he gets in these moods that I just don't appreciate. And
whoa,
Booker,
wait a minute, Frank. You talking a lot of smack, man. You just like all the rest of them. Brad is not your typical type of guy, all right? You can say what you want to say about him, but I know Brad, and I know him personally. I'm going to tell you this. He's going to stick to you like glue, man. He's going to walk with you like Elias. He's going to take you down like never before. Get some, want some, Frankie boy. Because it's going to be the last time you've ever, and I mean ever, talked it. Sucker.
Okay. That was Booker T.
Okay, what the hell was that?
You forget that Brad has a guy like Booker in his corner.
Yeah.
And this is not like the greatest time to be reminded of that. Yeah, definitely. I gotta talk to Brad. We get this this taken care of. Can we just cut this real quick?
Make sure. I think we need some hot and cold. Yeah.
All right, we are back. Slight technical difficulty. We're gonna figure this stuff out with Brad, and we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna talk with Chris, and we're gonna get it up. But luckily, we were able to get Jacob Blunden over here to talk and help finish off this episode. Jacob, thanks for joining us. What did you think about these two competitors just when you heard the match announced?
I was very excited to see the return of Bonnie Sommerville. I've been following the Schmoedown since it started, so in the pre-Collider era, so I know what Bonnie was like. I was very excited, and same with Jeannine. Jeannine joining up with Jay Washington, I thought great fit. Jeannine's been has impressed me a lot with the reactions she's been putting up, and I've been very, very impressed with her knowledge and seeing, all right, this could be a really interesting battle. And I was excited, and the match delivered. It delivered an incredible battle.
Now, if you remember way back in 2014, Christian and company kind of touted Bonnie Sommerville's knowledge as being pretty impressive, and she got kind of hung up on Point Break. Did you think that we could actually finally see her knowledge come to the forefront here in this match?
I did, and I think she was able to showcase a lot of her knowledge. I think if you actually look at the match, a lot of the questions she gets right, they are of a broader nature, and she is able to showcase that she does know what she's talking about. And where she got hung up a little bit were the multiple choice. In round 2 is where she got hung up, and then obviously round 3 hurt her a lot, and she wasn't able to capitalize on the momentum she had going into round 3. But I think she was able to show that she does know her stuff. She just got unlucky in round 3. Round 2, she knew it, but she had to hear it first, and that's part of the Schmoedown game.
All right, so let's talk about these promos. We got Jeannine, we've never seen do a promo. Bonnie didn't really ever cut a promo in this kind of this iteration of the Schmoedown. Jeannine, she comes out with Jay Washington fresh off of surgery. What did you think of Jeannine and Jay in the beginning in their promos?
Look, Jeannine was incredible. Jeannine was absolutely incredible. I don't want to take anything away from what Jeannine did in that promo, but my God, you have to give this to Jay. Jay Washington, literally out of surgery, is still able to be the Jay Washington that we know and we love. He is still able to deliver it to the level that we come to expect from Jay Washington. That was insane. That was absolutely incredible. And I was just clapping for him. He was absolutely incredible. And yeah, it sort of took away from his competitor, but he showcased his competitor the way he does and always is able to do, and shows why, other than Dagnito, he is the best manager currently in the Schmoedown. I think Dagnito does it slightly better, but Jay Washington, to take an unknown competitor like this and really elevate her and go, this is someone to be feared, and she was able to deliver on that. She sold the promo.
Yeah, I think seeing Jay definitely surprised me. I was shocked, really. But it was such a welcome surprise, and I was glad he still had that fiery spirit. I mean, I know, following him on social media, it was a rough couple of weeks, for him. And so for him to come back, support Jeannine, the Viper Squad, I think it was great. And yeah, I don't want it to take away too much from Jeannine, because she was great as well. And I've been looking forward to her debut. I've heard a lot about her. I've followed her, a lot of her work, especially in the Facebook group. And to see her cut a promo with Jay, I thought was great. I thought also Bonnie, too.
I think Bonnie did a really great job as her first promo in that she's ever had in the Collider era, the first real promo that she's ever had to do. And I think she managed to bring the wrestling-esque, the Schmoedown personality that we have started to see a lot more. And I think she did that really well. It sucks that her first time was going up against Jay. Like hey, I'm going to do a promo against the best person who does promos. Like it kind of, it really showcased that Bonnie was kind of alone there doing the promos. And I think that might have hurt her a little bit in these opening promos. Is she might have helped to have someone with her while she was doing that. I don't know who she would have gotten if she's part of a faction or not, but it really, really felt, hey, let's put Bonnie up against the best person who does promos, and it's gonna show. Like I don't know. It was something that I felt maybe they could have had someone with her, but that's all.
Yeah, Jay is such a huge personality, and I mean, I don't care who you are, except for a few select people, especially if you haven't caught a promo in this era. You're going to get a little bit overlooked because it's Jay Washington, for one, Let's get into the entrances, because there was some sass between these ladies in their introductions to the floor. So I very much enjoyed these. Jeannine, great entrance music around the jewels with Jay Washington. Had a swagger about her, and then Bonnie comes out, and it looked like she was going to kind of be a little timid, but then she kind of cranks it up there at the end. Jacob, what did you think about these intros, and how do you think it set the tone for the rest of the match, especially kind of like the verbal jabs between both Bonnie and Jeannine throughout the match?
I definitely think Jeannine was able to show her confidence. And look, I don't know if in reality she was freaking out, but you couldn't tell. And if she was nervous, if she was worried, if she was feeling the lights get to her, you couldn't tell, because she performed very well. And walking out, she was able to demonstrate how confident she was. And, there was the sass, and there was the incredible amounts of, no, I'm going to sit at the table. This is mine. I'm ready for this, and I know what I'm doing. And I thought she did that really well. Bonnie came out incredibly well as well. They were both able to just... there wasn't anything overly special about the entrances, but at the same time, they were good, solid entrances, and they were able to set the mood for the match. And I thought, all right, we are for a match that was one that not a lot of people probably were looking forward to the most. This got me really, really excited for it, and I was really able to go, all right, this is going to be a fantastic match.
Yeah, I gotta agree. There wasn't anything flamboyant about their entrances, but the attitude and the personality that they brought, but then just such subtle introductions. I think you're correct in saying that it really would foreshadow what to expect between both of them. Let's get into the first round real quick. At the end of one, Jeannine leads 6-4 throughout the first half of this first round. They were pretty even, and then Bonnie kind of fell off on those last three questions, and Jeannine took advantage of that, where she answered the last three. So she has a 2-point lead. Jacob, now, is there anything in this round, these questions, that you thought these competitors should have nailed? Let's talk about that drama category. They both missed. That was the only category they both collectively missed. What were your thoughts on some of the questions that players missed or made?
Some of the questions, I thought, these were all pretty stock standard questions. I thought they were really, really well written. They were good first round questions. I think if Bonnie admitted it in her post-match interview that if she went for another, if she repeated the question on two of them, she probably would have gotten the answer and would have been able to actually if I did that, I probably could have gotten it again, which admittedly that's not part of the rules that was there 4 years ago. So that's right. Just learning the game, and that's there. So I can understand that. It would have helped. It definitely would have helped later in the game, but most of the questions I thought they answered pretty okay. Towards the end, I mean, Malcolm McDowell, that can be a tough one if you've never heard. because it's such an old film, I can understand why some people have maybe not known who the actor is, but they could pick him in a lineup. Resident Evil, those movies are terrible. I can understand why no one knows that answer. Sure. But yeah, the Paul Rudd one is one that, again, it's 95. It's an old movie, but it's one of those. It was his real breakout role, and I can kind of understand. All right, maybe that one you probably could have gotten it, and if she repeated it, she would have gotten it.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by the Resident Evil miss, because there's just so many of them. I think by now you would have kind of come across it, but not everyone watches every movie, and that's fine. The second round, this is where things took a turn that I didn't see coming. Jeannine defers to Bonnie, and she gets spinner's choice. And for some reason, this was just me. I don't know why. I felt like she would take Julia Roberts, only because I think Julia Roberts has been one of the most used categories, especially in the third round. And in 2014, it was used, I think, a fair amount, if I can remember correctly. She goes Julia Roberts, and she goes 4 for 4, but she uses multiple choice on 3 of the 4 questions. What did you think of Bonnie's turn in round 2 to start it off?
I think she handled it extremely well. I think she knew the first one, and you could tell she knew the first one. And with the other 3, she was kind of like, all right. She played the game to the best of her ability. And that's where I think we started to see her understand the rules a bit better. And she was able to actually play the game and not risk the, I'm going to give her the opportunity to steal. Instead, she went, all right, 1 point and I can get the answer. Because the Notting Hill question, she knew, and she knew it. She just didn't know his name. And as soon as she saw it, she knew it. The other 2, she knew it. She just didn't. She just needed that extra boost to help. And that's something that I think is playing the game to your advantage. Instead of taking a wild guess, you might possibly gift your opponent 2 points. And she was able to not do that. And that's what I thought was an incredible way of playing the game, which I don't think Jeannine did quite as well.
Yeah, I think Bonnie did a great job playing this round. She used the rules to her advantage. She had a repeat in there that she wanted to use, and it worked to her benefit. Going multiple choice, some people might look at that as a maneuver to try and not lose the match, but not win the match. So I think it was kind of both there for Bonnie, because I think she respected Jeannine's knowledge just based on the first round alone, and maybe what she may have heard beforehand. So I think maybe that's, and I'm just speculating, I don't know. Maybe that's why she, instead of like the Notting Hill question, she could have took a shot, but she opted to go to multiple choice, so that instead of handing over 2 points, a 2-point opportunity to her, it would just be a 1 point. But then she knew it, so I wonder if she would like to go back and try and rectify some of these guesses where she wish she would have taken a shot. But I think if she does come back later on in the year, I would like to see how she adapts her game. Now, switching gears to Jeannine, she gets animated, seemed pretty confident that she got on her first spin. She kept it. She took it. And then she answers that first one very confidently. And then it was goose eggs from there on out, even with 2 multiple choice on the third and fourth question, which was very surprising to me. And also, she's got to be very thankful that Bonnie only took advantage of one of those misses just for 1 point. I mean, she could have really put herself in a hole, because at the end of this round, instead of being up 2 like she was from the first round, now she's down to 10-8. Jacob, what happened here with Jeannine in the animated category?
I think it was a smart. I think she knew she knows animated films. You could tell Jeannine knows animated films. You look at her on the reactions. She knows her animated stuff. I just think she got a bit unlucky with the questions, and she didn't take her time so much. In round 2, she kind of jumps a bit too fast at the answer, and I think that's a bit of a, oh, hang on, I know this, and then doesn't take the minute to sit down and actually think about the answer. And I think we started to see that a few times. And when Bonnie was able to capitalize, now, this is something I do want to mention about round 2 that is just something that it's something that I have seen in the Schmoedown a few times now, and that is, when Bonnie gets the opportunity to steal, I think it was the second question, she asks for she asks for a repeat of the question.
Yeah.
And that costs her one of her repeats. Now, personally, I believe that when you have the opportunity to steal a question from an opponent, you should be allowed to have one mulligan repeat. They should be set. If you ask, I would like a repeat of that, okay, you get a repeat, and it doesn't cost you a repeat because the question was never asked to you. That to me, that's I feel like when Bonnie used up one of her repeats, and later in the game she could have used that repeat, it kind of felt to me it's always felt a little unfair when a question's not asked to you, but you still need to use the repeat to get the question again. I've always just felt that's a little something that could be possibly changed in the Schmoedown.
Yeah, I think there could be certain times when a competitor certainly milks the clock, and there's this long duration when it goes from them to you, and now there's been this long duration, and now maybe you don't even have multiple choice, right? So it's kind of hard to go back in your mind and figure out remember the points of the question to help you answer correctly. I do like that idea of having a mulligan just for the first repeat. Anything after the first asking to repeat the question then should count towards your own bank of repeats, because with the multiple choice, they give you a free repeat of the multiple choice. I think the same could be applied to the question upon a steal opportunity. So maybe they'll look at that in the future. Maybe they already have. Who knows? But I think it is a valid point to bring up, because one half gets a repeat, the other half, doesn't. It's kind of when you think about it, it's like, that makes me think a little bit about what could we do to make that a little bit more even. Anything else you want to say on Jeannine's round, or we can move on to round 3?
Yeah, I can move on to round 3. I just think, Jeannine needed to kind of just take her time a little bit more in round 2. So in the future, when she comes back in the future, I think just maybe take a little bit of time.
Yeah, and she didn't even use. I believe she never even used a repeat on any of her questions. So perhaps in the future, she might take more advantage of that. Because I personally don't see any shame in asking for a repeat. I know you're trying to put out this, persona of, you're tough and you're strong and you're confident. So don't be afraid to do that, especially if you're trying to play a part where, take the repeat and let's it, maybe come up with the answer. You don't have to go to multiple choice. Anyways, going on to round 3, Jeannine trails by 2, and Jeannine ends up getting her 2-pointer correct, and then it goes back to Bonnie, where she just went 0 for 3. And then Jeannine, she couldn't even finish up her other 3 and 5-pointer. Did you expect this match to go to sudden death, Jacob?
At the end of round 2, absolutely not. I thought with a 2-point lead, typically with a 2-point lead, you don't see a sudden death. It's very rare. It's very difficult to get to a sudden death after a 2-point lead. It doesn't happen very often, and I was very shocked that it actually did. So yeah, this was a kind of one of those, they both just, it was either they got unlucky with the questions, or, look, round 3 are tougher questions. They undoubtedly are. They are the tougher questions, and I think we saw here, maybe the round 2 ones, Jeannine got, Bonnie missed. Round 3 and the 3-pointer and the 5-pointer, they were pretty tough questions. I'm not going to lie. Like I was sitting there going, "Hey, I didn't know the answer to some of them." So they were tough. They were tough questions.
Yeah. I was just surprised even that Jeannine couldn't pull out the win there in the 3rd round, given that Bonnie missed all 3. So I know I personally was kind of expecting bigger things from Jeannine, but I think it also has to deal with that you just got a kind of bad run of questions, and it's her first time out. Let's be honest. No one comes in here, wiping the competition. Only very rare players could do that in this league, especially if you've never been in front of the camera as much or at all. But moving on to the sudden death, they get the first one right, and then we get to the second one, which is where Jeannine ends up winning. This is one of the most heartbreaking ends to a match I can ever recollect. Just a word. Was it a word or two?
Yeah,
that
a day to remember.
Yeah,
A walk to remember.
Oh my goodness! I mean, she knew it. She just got it all mixed up. Jacob, what were you thinking when she revealed her answer? Bonnie,
I was in shock. I was heartbroken. She was so close. Like, especially consider. I thought the first question was a tough one, like the Sean Connery Avengers question. I thought that was a tough one. And the fact that they both knew that, I went, oh, awesome. Okay, well done. Then they get one that is in both their wheelhouses. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. We're getting to a third question. And I did not expect that Bonnie would miss it by one word, like literally a word. And yeah, it was heartbreaking to watch. And it was very, like, well done to Jeannine, because as soon as Bonnie revealed it, we all knew that was it. Jeannine knew it, and she played it. Like, she really well played to the camera, like, yeah, no, it's actually a walk to remember. Oh, yeah. And it was just so well done.
Had to put that sting in there, yeah.
Yeah. It played to the rivalry. It played to this newfound, I guess, persona of Jeannine, that she is now part of the Vipers, and it worked really well for her going future into the Schmoedown.
Yeah, after they got that first question right, the Avenger, Sean Connery, and then I saw the wording of the second question, I was like, oh, I think we're going to have a pretty elongated sudden death here, and then, no, it was over. It was over before it even got started. I was such in shock. I could not believe it. And I felt so bummed for Bonnie, because I think a lot of people, they look at that 2014 performance. It's not great, but it was, she got dominated by that Point Break category, and none of that. And we saw how she was performing in this match. And so I thought, yeah, she can really pull it out, because beforehand I would have picked Jeannine to win this match, because I was referencing the 2014 match, right? And now to see her go through these 3 rounds, well, the third round, these first 2 rounds, gave me confidence that she could really pull this off in sudden death, and that Jeannine might have let this one slip away, given the way she performed in the second round and couldn't seal the deal in the third round. So I was fully expecting a long, drawn-out sudden death. It's interesting that we get a second sudden death this season, when I meant to pull up the numbers on this, and I'm mad at myself that I didn't have them ready for the show. But I want to say, in the history of the Schmoedown, maybe there's been a handful, 5 or 6 sudden deaths ever between teams and singles. To get 2 within the first month of this season is crazy. It's crazy. Did you think about how this is crazy that we're getting a second sudden death?
Yeah, it is kind of really crazy. And if you especially think about, like, just how difficult it is to actually get to sudden death, and the fact that we are now seeing this more and more and more. And hey, it's the second time in a row where we've seen it from a competitor who everyone was kind of expecting not to do that well, against a competitor who was going to go incredible, and they brought them to sudden death. So I wouldn't say that Bonnie got destroyed in this match, because if you take someone to sudden death, that's not destroying someone. That is, you fought up a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, she answered 56% of her questions. That is Bonnie. Jeannine answers 67%. It's where the third round that really hurt both of these competitors to win this match, which I think going forward could be a real cause for concern if you're rooting for these individuals. Jacob, what do you think their future matches could potentially look like, given this third round woes? Do you think it's just kind of a fluke, or you hope it's a fluke, or maybe it's a sign of things to come? I know we're speculating and really have no basis for anything, because there's nothing scientific about the Schmoedown. We're just wildly guessing here. I think that's safe to say.
I think that it is very possible. Look, I think Jeannine's future. She was in a post-match interview. She says, "I want to fight Kalinowski."
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if Kalinowski's her next fight, but it's possible. I think she has one more fight. I wouldn't mind seeing her maybe go up against Emma Fyffe. or someone who is 1-0, hey, and then maybe go up to Mike Kalinowski. Bonnie, she has to fight Josh McCougar. Josh McCougar has to be the next fight for her. It has to happen, because the way Bonnie played in this, I think there's the redemption story there. She'll have a redemption and then fight Jeannine again, and then move on from there. I think that should be Bonnie's arc, and I think that's where she should go.
Yeah, it's interesting that Jeannine calls out KO. I know he just had a horrible match in that number one contenders spot, the number one contenders match, and I get that they're probably trying to, get him while he's down, but KO, he's still in the upper tiers of the Schmoedown, and she really, as of now, doesn't have any footing to go after KO. I think you're right. She's got maybe she even plays Makuga. He's kind of always been this rite of passage kind of player throughout his career. Kind of this gateway, to the next level of competitors. Even though he's been mostly a 500 guy his entire career, I think he's 7-8 right now. So, and he's got a match coming up with Scarpino. So, it's interesting. Jeannine wants to go that route, and I'm sure that's also fueled by Jay. He wants to go after the big dogs in the league. And I just want to say real quick regarding the Viper Squad, Jay had the Misfits, and I'm not going to carry over anything he did with that faction over into what he's going to do with the Viper Squad. I'm giving him a clean slate, and so what happened in the past, and now he's looking to the future. And he's got a bright performer in Jeannine, I think. So I expect hopefully big things from Jay this year, and I know he's going to have that fire and passion because he's been through some stuff already this year in real life, and I know he's just going to bring that determination that he has in real life over into Schmoedown and excel with Jeannine. As for Bonnie, I hope to see her back because she didn't do as bad as I think she thought she might do, and I think she realizes that she could actually hang with some of these people in the league, and if she just plays a little smarter, a little differently here and there, that she can pull up some upset wins in people's minds. What do you think about Bonnie's chances coming back?
I think definitely. I don't ever see Bonnie being an upper tier player. The league is just now filled with such depth that at the top of that table, there is just so many fantastic players. I don't see Bonnie ever really getting up there, but I think she's definitely going to be one of those players where people are going to have to take her down to get to that top tier. And if they can't take her down, they're not getting to that top tier. Yeah. I think she is going to be one of those players where, hey, you want to take on a Roka, a Bibiani, a Kalinowski, one of these top tier, a Sam Levine, a Cushing, you have to beat Bonnie first. And I think that's where her career will lie. I mean, look, I could be wrong. She could end up getting to being one of the top tier players. But at the moment, I think she kind of needs to just focus on some of these on some of the lower tier players and then move up to get to those top tier players.
And I'm also curious if now Bonnie's kind of gotten the bug, as we've seen so many people, they get one match in the Schmoedown and it's like, and then they crave some more. I wonder if it won't be, too long until we see Bonnie. Maybe she shows up at the free for all. Maybe she shows up for some other kind of a different kind of match down the road. I hope we do see her because I think she can surprise a lot of people who may not suspect that she could do as well based on previous performances and whatnot. So real quick, just to wrap up everything with Jeannine and Bonnie, I thought this match was fantastic. I didn't really know what to expect from either of these players. I was pleasantly surprised by just the level of competition that they brought in terms of, some of their knowledge was pretty up there, but more advanced than mine because I'm not proclaiming that I'm a genius at all in this. So it always impresses me when people know questions that I had no idea about. So I was very impressed with them, very impressed with their showmanship towards one another. These jabs, Jeannine just really leaning into it and Bonnie throwing it right back at her. I thought it was great. Jacob, what are your final thoughts? And then after that, I want to get into some of your thoughts on where do you see the rest of the season and players going. But real quick, your thoughts on this match overall.
This match overall, I thought, was a really great showcase of what these newcomer matches can be. So Christian this year has really promised us. We are getting a lot of newcomers and a lot of first-time players, and I think this week really has shown that, hey, this is a great thing. This is a fantastic thing. And I know Bonnie's not a new player, but in terms of the Collider era, she is now a new player. This is her first real showing in the new Collider era of the matches, and I think that's showcase. She was able to showcase today how fantastic all these new players are going to be, and that's where I think the future of the Schmoedown is going to be this season, is the new matches and the newcomers, and we're really going to get some fresh blood into this Schmoedown this year.
Do you think it's a risk for the Schmoedown to showcase so many new people early on in the season when people are clamoring for Roca and Clark Wolf, even Kalinowski, Mark and Draco, Bibiani, Drew McWeeny, people we've seen and fell in love with in seasons past. But we've gotten so many new faces. Do you think that's a wise decision, or do you think it's one that remains to be seen? Because no doubt, there's no question in my mind, we need to see competitors. But so far, it's all we've seen for the most part, besides the top 10, top that match, and the number 1 contenders match. There hasn't been too many faces of old. Would you agree or disagree?
I'm kind of disagree to that, actually, because I think if you really think about the people we have seen this season, we've had Cushing, JTE, Kalinowski, we've had Roca turn up in a team match, we've had Jeff Snyder, we've had Mark Ellis, we've had all-time great players play this season so far. We've been promised the Patriots are coming back in the next 3 weeks. We're getting a title match in the next 2 weeks. I think they have done it correctly so far with the implementation of new players, where we got a fatal 5-way which had 4 brand new players. This week we got a team match that had 4 new players, and we got a regular match a singles match that had 2 new players. And next week we're getting another 5-way that's got new players that we've never seen, followed by 2 matches that are filled with returning players. I think they have kind of right now the right balance. If anything, they've really at the start of the season gone top heavy on some of the names they've got, because we've got Bibiani and Drew McWeeny coming back next week. That's a huge match. We've had a lot of people that we fell in love with in 2017 come back already so far this year. So I think they have struck the right balance.
Now, Chris, I want to ask you the same thing. Do you think they have a good balance of the new and the old? Because I mean, I think my thought process, I think I'm kind of skewed more because we saw so many new people in Inner Geekdom, and as of late, we saw 2 new teams, and we got Jeannine and Bonnie. What are your thoughts on the mixture of old and new? Because people out in the community, we hear it all the time. I want to see so and so and so and so, and they're not really clamoring for these new people that Christian's bringing into the league, which I think is great. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look. I mean, this season so far, you get your old, and then you get your new, and then you get your old, and you get your new. I mean, look, the new blood in this season has been ecstatic. Everybody new who has come into the season has brought some sort of charisma, stage presence, a personality. I think at the end of the day, that is what matters, and that is what will stick with an audience. Yes, I love Bibiani. Yes, I love Burnett. Yes, I love Whitney. Yes, I love these characters that have great personalities. But if you don't open up and branch out to new players, things get stale. And I mean, that's just how you go in life. That's how a TV show evolves. You add new characters, new cast members. That's just the evolution of a television show, and we're seeing that. And as we move forward, we're going to get new players that we're going to love and cherish, and we're still going to have the old. So we're not losing anything. We're just gaining stuff. So I feel like nothing but positivity can come from this. Look at this match. Jeannine is an amazing, charismatic woman. She did an amazing job, and her and Jay Washington were just made for each other. They really, really were. They were just made for each other. And I can't wait for the new people coming forward and seeing what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of backtrack a little bit because I think I might have been a prisoner of the moment, especially with Inner Geekdom, new team, new singles. You guys bring great points that there actually has been a good flow of old and new. I just fear that, and I do read the comments out there and see that a lot of people want more of the old, and I understand that. But first and foremost, I'm for expansion of the league, new players. So I don't want to get that misconstrued. But this has been a lot of fun, guys. Thank you, Jacob, for joining me. Chris, for putting up with some of these antics that we've had.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We'll get that all straightened out, folks. I can guarantee you that. Jacob, where can the good people find you and all the work that you do revolving the Schmoedown and elsewhere?
You guys can just find me on Facebook and Twitter at Jacob Blunden. At the moment, I'm over at Take 3 Productions, where we have our Schmoedown recap show, the Reactors Summit, that drops every Monday at 3 p.m. We also do our Schmoedown reactions, which are a lot of fun, and we just sit around and we talk about the Schmoedown, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Schmoedown reactions are a lot of fun. I just recently did one with Chris Clark for the celebrity match. Those are a lot of fun. If you're not doing reactions, give it a try, because I think for me it gives a kind of a more sense of community, because you're putting out videos and you're putting your thoughts out there in a more visual way instead of just words, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to answer and react. So you guys do a great job over there at Take 3 with that. I appreciate the reactions you guys do. As for this show, the Schmoedown Rundown, you can follow it on Twitter, Schmoedown RD. Hopefully the show is still alive next week, and if not, you can still follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. Thanks a lot to Chris Clark once again for being our producer and the captain of this ship, because Lord knows we were veering off course.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Until next week, I hope we'll see you then.